Ever catch yourself eyeing that protein-packed candy bar thinking, maybe you're making a virtuous choice, while also, no-key plotting your next escape to some beach far away?
Huh. Yeah, or maybe noticed how folks in those old black and white photos seem, well, a bit more weathered maybe for their age to drift out.
Exactly. Those everyday things, they point to some really fascinating undercurrents, don't they? In how we live, how we consume.
They really do.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise and dig up the most interesting nuggets of info for you.
And today, we're plunging into a really rich collection of recent news and research. It's all gathered by the Consumers 360 News commentary from consumers.app. They did the legwork, sifting through tons of sources.
Yeah, they give us this fantastic snapshot of what's happening right now. So our mission, our goal today,
is basically to pull out the most relevant insights from all that aggregated stuff. Just for you, the listener. We're covering, well, everything from the protein craze to global trade, maybe even why your scalp is suddenly so itchy.
Think of it as your personal briefing on what matters. Okay, let's kick things off with this. Protein obsession. It's everywhere. The Wall Street Journal on MSN mentioned it, and apparently some nutrition experts are a little skeptical.
Well, yeah. It's interesting, isn't it, how proteins become this symbol of health, almost separate from its actual nutritional job.
Right.
And social media, well, it's a huge driver. You've got influencers pushing high-protein diets constantly.
It feels like food companies are putting it in everything. Candy, ice cream, soda even.
Exactly. And that marketing success, putting protein in weird places like candy, it really taps into this consumer desire for like a quick health fix, that halo effect.
Even if the actual nutrition isn't really there, it makes you wonder, are we just chasing the idea of health?
That's the concern the experts have. They worry this focus on isolated protein and processed stuff makes us forget about, overall balance.
Like getting vitamins, fiber,
yeah,
all the other important things.
Exactly. They stress getting protein from whole foods, lean meats, dairy, beans, legumes as part of a varied diet.
It's so easy to grab a protein brownie and feel good, but miss out on, actual nutrition. Now, speaking of basic needs, there was that study in Guatemala mentioned.
Ah, yes, that was fascinating. It really highlighted the long-term impact of parental nutrition, specifically protein on kids' growth, height differences, things like that.
So foundational nutrition for kids versus protein-infused chips for adults trying to build muscle. Quite a difference.
A huge leap. And it underscores the fundamental role protein plays, which is, very different from the current adult fitness focus.
It also makes you think about diet trends, doesn't it? First, low fat, then low carb, now high protein. What's next?
It's a great question. The cycle seems to be speeding up, maybe because of social media. It really shows why we need to be, critical consumers of information.
Definitely. Rely on science, not just the latest influencer trend, because there are downsides to overdoing the protein thing, right? The aggregator mentioned some biomedical research.
That's right. And the risks aren't trivial. Things like kidney strain, maybe an increased risk of cardiovascular issues, potential nutrient imbalances.
The moderation is key.
Moderation and focusing on getting protein from natural whole foods. That seems to be the smartest approach.
Okay, so for everyone listening, maybe rethink adding protein powder to everything. Focus on that balanced plate first.
Well summarized. Okay, let's pivot completely. Let's talk about trade imbalances. Sounds dry, maybe, but the New York Times had a piece on it. Tariffs won't fix our trade imbalance. This will.
Right, trade deficits, capital surpluses. It sounds complicated. Can you break it down simply?
Sure. So when a country like the U.S. buys more from other countries than it sells, that's the trade deficit. It often gets more foreign investment coming in. That's the capital surplus.
Why did that happen?
A big reason is the U.S. dollar. It's seen globally as like a safe place to keep savings. So foreigners invest here. Think of the U.S. as a giant safe bank for the world.
So us buying imports actually helps attract investment. That feels backwards somehow.
Yeah, the old view was often deficit bad. But modern economics is more nuanced. A deficit can actually signal that a country has strong investment opportunities, which is why foreign money flows in.
And the dollar status as the main reserve currency. That's central to all this.
Absolutely central. Global demand for dollars for trade and savings helps the U.S. manage these flows and attract capital. It gives the U.S. economy a unique kind of flexibility, but maybe some vulnerabilities too.
The aggregator also mentioned the balance of payments. That sounds like a country's entire financial spreadsheet with the world.
Pretty much. You've got the current account trade in goods, services, income. Then the financial and capital accounts investments, borrowing. Ideally, it all balances out. It gives you the big picture.
Okay, and how does economic inequality fit into this trade picture? There was a study mentioned.
Right. This is interesting. The idea is that things like tech progress and good social safety nets, they don't just reduce inequality, they can actually make an economy more stable and competitive.
Which improves trade performance.
Exactly. By boosting productivity, education, innovation, it can lead to more balanced trade. It suggests solutions beyond just tariffs, focusing more on strengthening the domestic economy itself.
So investing in education isn't just social policy, it's potentially trade policy too.
It's all connected. And then there was this earn model concept for international trade shares.
An urn model, like drawing balls from an urn.
Kind of. Imagine global trade as this giant lottery machine. Each ball is a product. Its size is its market share. The model shows how these shares shift dynamically over time. Capital flows to the hot sectors,
Following a scaling law, it said?
Yeah, it's not totally random. Things like tech breakthroughs act like magnets, pulling capital, changing the landscape. It's a neat way to visualize how fluid global trade patterns really are.
Okay, from global trade, let's zoom back down to the grocery aisle. Food policy. Forbes on MSN reported some U.S. states want to ban using SNAP benefits food stamps for soda and candy. Why?
Well, the main driver is public health. It's part of this larger push to tackle obesity, type 2 diabetes, the health problems linked to too much sugar. Sort of a make America healthy idea.
And it's not just physical health, is it? There was that 2025 study about sugar and brain function.
That's a really concerning angle. The finding that high sugar, high fat diets might actually impair cognitive functions like spatial navigation, that adds a whole new layer to the debate. It's not just about weight.
So the argument for these bans is save healthcare costs down the line.
That's the hope. Reduce consumption of sugary stuff, maybe reduce diet-related diseases, and eventually lower healthcare spending. Of course, you also have to consider the impact on businesses selling those items.
And the science linking sugar to health risks is pretty solid, isn't it? Obesity, diabetes, heart disease.
Oh, yeah. The biomedical research is quite clear on the risks of excessive sugar intake. It's a major public health challenge.
And the idea is if you can't buy soda with a SNAP, maybe you'll buy apples instead. A subtle nudge.
That's the behavioral theory, yes. Limiting the unhealthy options might encourage shifts towards more nutritious choices and maybe even push stores to stock more healthy items.
But actually doing this sounds complicated. How do you define sugary? How do you enforce it?
Those are exactly the hurdles. Defining the categories precisely, ensuring retailers comply. It's a big administrative task. Plus, there's always the debate about personal choice versus government intervention.
Brazil's Bolsa Familia program was mentioned as a different approach.
Right. Their model often focuses more on education and conditional cash transfers. So maybe less about outright bans and more about encouraging healthy choices through information and incentives. Different philosophy.
Okay, let's shift again. The circular economy. Forbes had an article, Why the Circular Economy is Failing and How It Can Actually Work. We hear that term a lot. What's the basic idea?
The core idea is moving away from our usual take, make, throw away system.
The linear model.
Exactly. The circular model is about designing waste out, keeping products and materials in use, longer repair, reuse, recycling, and regenerating natural systems, closing the loop.
Being smarter with resources, basically.
Fundamentally. And businesses are exploring this, things like product as a service, sharing platforms, making things last longer, designing for disassembly. It's about sustainability, but also potential new economic value.
Now, here's a weird one. Nuclear energy in China's circular economy. And a study found a negative impact. That seems counterintuitive.
It really does. Because if nuclear is low carbon, you'd think it fits. But this specific study, using economic modeling, suggested it actually had a negative correlation with China's circular economy goals, short and long term.
Why?
The study didn't fully detail why, but it highlights just how complex these transitions are. Maybe it relates to resource use in construction, waste disposal challenges, or how it interacts with other parts of the system. It shows we need nuanced analysis, not just assumptions.
The article also mentioned smart and circular cities. Sounds futuristic.
It's a really promising vision, using tech IoT, Industry 4.0, to manage resources better in cities, reducing waste, boosting efficiency, making urban areas more sustainable and resilient. It connects the tech and circular ideas.
And if the whole world adopted circular principles, how big could the impact on carbon emissions be?
Potentially huge. Some estimates say it could cut emissions drastically, maybe even comparable to taking all transport emissions offline, especially in big industries like cement, steel, plastics, food.
China's been working on this since 2002.
Yeah, they started early, driven by, frankly, major environmental problems from rapid growth. They're trying to decouple growth from resource use and pollution. It's a massive undertaking.
But a big challenge mentioned is financializing circularity, making it pay, basically.
Right. Our current system doesn't really price in the cost of waste or resource depletion. They're externalities. So it's harder to get big investments flowing into circular models compared to the old linear ones that profit from extraction and disposal. We need to value not wasting things.
Okay, let's switch to something more uplifting maybe. India's travel boom. Entrepreneur on MSN reported a $38 billion industry growing fast. What's driving that?
A lot of it is digital startups. They're making travel planning so much easier, booking platforms, personalized tips using data. It's opening up travel to more people.
And it's not just about booking flights, right?
Yeah.
People want experiences.
Totally. Experiential tourism is huge. People want authentic connections, culture, adventure, wellness, not just ticking off sites. Sustainable tourism is also part of that trend.
And credit cards play a role. How so?
Yeah, easier access to financing trips through credit plus reward points. It just lowers the barrier and incentivizes travel spending for many consumers.
Plus, India's incredible cultural heritage is a massive draw. Festivals, history.
Absolutely. Those cultural events and sites pull in tons of tourists, domestic and international, boosting local economies. It shows the economic power of heritage.
But with rapid growth comes challenges. Sustainability must be a big one.
Definitely. Balancing the economic benefits with protecting the environment and respecting local communities. That's the tightrope walk. Sustainable practices are crucial for the long run.
And technology isn't just for booking, it's improving the actual trip experience too.
Yeah, things like real-time info, navigation apps, seamless booking for activities on the go. Technology makes the whole journey smoother and more personalized.
So the future looks bright for India's travel scene.
Yeah.
Likely more personalized, maybe more eco-conscious travel.
That seems to be the direction, driven by tech, demand for unique experiences, and hopefully a growing awareness of sustainability.
Okay, shifting focus again. Environmental concerns. Green Queen reported Americans know beef is bad for the planet. Seems awareness is growing.
It does seem that way. The impacts are becoming clearer. Greenhouse gases like methane, deforestation for grazing, water use, biodiversity loss. Beef production has a heavy footprint.
And plant-based diets are usually presented as the greener option.
Generally, yes. They tend to use far less land, water, and generate fewer emissions compared to meat-heavy diets, especially beef. It's seen as a more sustainable path.
Plus, the health benefits of eating more plants are pretty well known too. Reduced risk of chronic diseases.
Right. More fiber, vitamins, antioxidants, generally linked to better health outcomes and weight management.
The aggregator also mentioned some cool innovations, like using algae, yeast, even insects in fish food.
Yeah, in aquaculture feed. It's about finding sustainable alternatives to traditional fish meal, which often relies on catching wild fish. This could make fish farming much more eco-friendly.
It sounds like government support could really help speed up a shift towards more plant-based eating in the U.S.
Policy could definitely play a role. Things like subsidies, funding research, public education. Making plant-based options easier and cheaper could encourage change.
And it's interesting that plant-based feed in aquaculture can even reduce nitrogen pollution.
Yes, by improving how fish utilize nutrients, less nitrogen waste ends up in the water. That's a significant environmental benefit for aquatic ecosystems.
And lastly, that link between diet and the immune system. Like with psoriasis, everything's connected.
It really is. We're learning more about how diet influences inflammation. Certain dietary changes might help manage inflammatory conditions by affecting the immune response. Fascinating stuff.
Now let's talk aging. HealthDigest.com on MSN asked, the scientific reason people from the past look older at the same age. You look at old photos, and yeah, they often do. Why?
Well, several factors. Historically, things like poorer nutrition, much higher smoking rates, limited skin care, less sun protection, more environmental pollutants, all that accelerated visible aging.
Lifestyle and environment played a huge part.
A massive part. Even societal norms back then, hairstyles and clothes could make people seem older.
And now we have tech like the My Time Machine approach, using AI to see how you might age. Wild.
It's pretty amazing. It uses your photos and AI trained on huge data sets to create personalized facial aging predictions. It helps understand aging on an individual level.
Studies also showed differences in how men and women age visually.
Yes, research suggests different aging trajectories based on biology, lifestyle, genetics, environment. It's not uniform.
And even our brain aging can affect how old we perceive someone to be.
That's right. Changes in cognitive function, processing speed, they're part of aging and can contribute to that overall impression of age.
But the science isn't just about why we look older. It's about improving health span.
Right.
Living healthier for longer.
Exactly. The focus is shifting from just lifespan to health span. Understanding the molecular basis of aging to find ways to delay age-related diseases and improve quality of life in later years.
And the models used to estimate age are getting smarter, considering gender differences.
Yeah, they're becoming more sophisticated, recognizing the interplay of factors like gender, leading to more accurate insights into aging patterns.
So our understanding has evolved beyond just wear and tear.
Definitely. It includes both damage accumulation and programmed aging theories now, with a big focus on interventions.
Okay, last big topic shift. That common annoyance, an itchy scalp. Vogue asked, why is my scalp so itchy? What are the usual suspects?
Oh, there are many. Dandruff is super common, often linked to yeast overgrowth. But it could also be seborrheic dermatitis, like severe dandruff or psoriasis, fungal infections, even allergic reactions to hair products.
And environmental factors too, like weather.
Absolutely. Dry air, humidity changes, they can definitely trigger or worsen itchiness for some people. And let's not forget head lice.
Dandruff seems like a constant battle for some. Is there a cure?
Not really a cure, but good management. Antifungal shampoos, ingredients like salicylic acid, they help control the fungus and reduce flakes and itch.
And head lice. Still a thing, causing intense itching. There was a study on ivermectin.
Yes, research continues on effective treatments. And interestingly, being female or living with someone who has lice increases your risk. It spreads easily.
Seborrheic dermatitis sounds worse than regular dandruff.
It usually involves more inflammation, redness, thicker scales, and often more intense itching. Often needs prescription treatments.
So basic prevention for itchy scalp. Good hygiene.
Pretty much. Regular washing with gentle products, rinsing thoroughly, avoiding known irritants. That helps maintain a healthy scalp environment.
And maybe a humidifier in winter if the air is really dry.
That can definitely help mitigate dryness that exacerbates itchiness for some people.
Okay, finally, let's talk skincare ingredients.
Yeah.
Very well. Health on MSN had a piece on what not to mix. Crucial info.
Absolutely crucial. Mixing the wrong things can cause irritation or just make products ineffective, like retinoids and benzoyl peroxide together. Often leads to major dryness and redness.
Or vitamin C and AHAs.
Yeah, that combo can destabilize the vitamin C and potentially irritate the skin, too. You need to know what plays well together.
And AI is even getting involved here, recommending routines.
It is. AI systems can analyze skin types pretty accurately now, like 93% in some studies, and suggest personalized routines. That could help avoid bad combos and find what really works.
Even formulation matters, like encapsulating vitamin E.
Right. Encapsulation protects sensitive ingredients like vitamin E from degrading and helps deliver them more effectively into the skin. It's clever formulation tech.
And regulations are key for safety, obviously.
Totally. Choosing products from reputable brands that follow safety guidelines is essential. Knowing what ingredients are restricted or banned helps too.
Even basic emulsions.
Yeah.
There's science behind getting them right.
Definitely. Mixing oil and water needs careful formulation for stability and texture. Tech, like nanoemulsification, improves delivery of the active ingredients.
It really shows how much molecular science goes into modern skincare.
Exactly. Understanding how ingredients interact at a tiny level is key to making products that are both safe and effective.
It's a huge improvement from, historical cosmetics that sometimes use pretty harmful stuff.
A massive improvement. Modern skincare is much more focused on evidence and safety.
So, pulling all this together, what does it all mean for you, our listener, in your daily life?
Well, maybe you'll look at that protein bar a bit differently. Think more about whole foods.
Or perhaps understand a bit more about those headlines on global trade and how it might, trickle down eventually.
Maybe consider the debates around food policy and public health, or how circular economy ideas might apply to your own habits. Reducing waste, reusing things.
You might be more aware of what's driving the travel industry. Maybe seek out more sustainable options yourself.
Reflect on the environmental impact of food choices, perhaps. Appreciate the science behind aging or skincare a bit more.
And maybe finally figure out that itchy scalp. Or at least be smarter about mixing your skincare products.
Does this deep dive make you reconsider that extra scoop of protein? How might global trade shifts affect your shopping list down the line? Are you going to read those skincare ingredient lists more closely now?
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive, exploring the insights gathered by Consumers 360 News commentary on Apr18'25.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Now, here's a final thought. Given the incredible pace of change we've talked about in health, tech, global systems, what single consumer trend do you predict have profound, maybe unexpected impact on our lives in the next, say, 5 years? Something to ponder.